Your kitchen window wouldn't just break. The sound waves would instantly cook the eggs sitting on your counter. That silence is the ocean's vanishing. 1.34 billion cubic kilometers of liquid. Gone. Replaced by a jagged continent of white. The Atlantic basin is now a dry, fractured salt pan. The Pacific is a crystalline desert. The water didn't drain. It didn't evaporate. It phase shifted. Every single H2O molecule in every sea, every lake, every river snapped into a rigid lattice. They became solid sodium chloride, edible rock salt. The entire hydrosphere is now a single, planet-wide crystal. Your first breath is a mistake. You inhale a blast of pure, desiccated air. It's been stripped of every trace of humidity in an instant. Your nasal passages and bronchial tubes dry out like parchment. They crack. You taste copper as the delicate capillaries in your alveoli rupture. Your lungs are now lined with microscopic salt dust. Every exhale grinds them like sandpaper. But that's just the atmosphere evacuating. Here's the thing about the ocean. It wasn't just sitting there. It was a 371 million square kilometer thermal battery. It absorbed sunlight. It redistributed heat. That function just stopped. The global conveyor belt, the engine of our climate, seized solid. The temperature begins to dive. Not over years. Over hours. Without the ocean's moderating hand, the sun's energy bounces off that brilliant white salt crust and straight back into space. The planet's albedo skyrockets. Earth becomes a mirror. By sunset on day 1, coastal temperatures have plummeted 30 degrees Celsius. Your breath freezes in the air. Frost crystallizes on the inside of your windows. Pipes burst. Then the real cold sets in. That rumble isn't thunder. It's geology screaming. A cubic kilometer of seawater weighs about 1 billion metric tons. When that mass turned to salt, its volume decreased by nearly 10%. Imagine the entire seafloor, suddenly relieved of that colossal weight. It rebounds. It springs upward. The mid-Atlantic ridge, freed from the pressure, begins to uncoil like a released spring. Tectonic plates, no longer held in check by oceanic weight, start to move. Not in their slow, million-year drift. In violent, jerking lurches. Earthquakes measuring in the high 9s rip across every coastline. The ring of fire becomes a ring of absolute fire. Volcanoes, their magma chambers destabilized by the shifting crust, erupt in a chain reaction. Ash plumes blot out the dying sun. But let's pause on the salt itself. Because we're calling it edible, and technically it is. It's just NaSl. But scale makes a mockery of labels. You are now standing on a salt plain that is on average 4 kilometers deep. That's the height of Mount Rainier, made of table seasoning. The pressure at the base of this crystal column is around 400 atmospheres. It's not a loose powder. It's metamorphic rock. The lower strata are being compressed into a dense, transparent variety called halite. It flows like glacial ice under the strain. And it's hungry. Salt is hygroscopic. It pulls water from anything nearby. With the free water gone, it turns its appetite to the only source left, the biosphere. Every leaf on every tree begins to wither. Not from cold. The salt crystal atmosphere is actively sucking the moisture out of them. Grass turns to dust. Soil becomes briny, sterile powder. Rivers are now trenches of loose salt, so when the last of their liquid water finally trickles out, their beds simply collapse. The problem is structural integrity. Concrete contains water in its chemical matrix. As the salt air leaches it out, your house doesn't just get cold. It turns to brittle chalk. Brickwork crumbles. Steel reinforcement bars corrode at an accelerated, visible rate. Your car's engine oil would congeal. Your blood plasma, if you're still alive, is next. Because your body is 60% water. The salt doesn't need to touch you. The air is now a predatory solvent. It draws the moisture from your eyes first. Your corneas cloud over with a stinging film of salt. Your skin tightens, then cracks like dry lake bed mud. Your cells, desperate to maintain equilibrium, sacrifice their internal fluid to the thirsty air. You die of dehydration in a matter of hours, surrounded by the greatest store of a vital nutrient in human history. It's a brutally ironic end. You're starving for sodium in a mountain of it. Now zoom out. The ecological cascade is absolute. Phytoplankton, the base of the marine food web and producer of half the world's oxygen, are entombed in their salt sarcophagi. Oxygen levels begin a steep, irreversible decline. Rain is a memory. All cloud formation required evaporated water. There is no evaporation. There is only a vast, static, salt dust haze. Weather stops. The concept of a front or a storm becomes archaeological. The human response would be pragmatic. For about 5 minutes. There would be a global, unanimous thought. We are saved. No more water scarcity. A limitless resource. The first people to venture onto the new salt plains would be like prospectors in a gold rush. They'd break off chunks with pickaxes. They'd load trucks. Then the trucks would sink. Because salt, under pressure, behaves like a non-Newtonian fluid. Think quicksand, but sharper. A vehicle's weight would fracture the surface crust. It would plunge into a granular flow of salt crystals. They would abrade the metal to nothing. The mining colonies established on the shores would suffer constant, catastrophic subsidence. Tent cities would vanish overnight into gaping sinkholes. And then the wind starts. With no ocean surface to create friction, atmospheric winds accelerate. They sweep across the flat, unobstructed salt deserts, picking up fine crystalline dust. Salt storms become a permanent feature. They don't just reduce visibility. They sandblast everything in their path. Paint stripped from walls. Glass turned frosted and opaque. Any attempt at agriculture becomes a sick joke. The soil is already dead. Now it's buried under meters of corrosive salt. The historical precedent is faint, but it's there. The Aral Sea. A man-made disaster where irrigation diverted its feeder rivers. It shrank. Its exposed seabed became a salt pan. Toxic dust storms spread disease for hundreds of kilometers. That was one inland sea, a puddle compared to the ocean. Multiply that effect by 10,000. The entire planet becomes a generator of saline particulate. You breathe it. It coats every surface. It invades every circuit board, every engine, every wound. The microloops are what finish the job. No ocean means no water cycle. No water cycle means no erosion. The geological clock freezes. Rivers no longer carry sediment to form deltas. Mountains no longer wear down. The planet's face becomes a static, frozen mask. But without rain to wash it away, the salt dust just accumulates. It piles and drifts against mountain ranges. It fills canyons. It creates a global, sterile layer of white. 100 years in, Earth is unrecognizable. A white sphere. A snowball, but made of salt. The ice caps, deprived of warmer ocean currents, might actually grow for a while. But they're growing on top of salt. The atmosphere is thin, cold, and abrasive. The only liquid water left is deep geothermal, locked in pores of rock far below. Maybe a few extremophile bacteria survive there. Maybe. But here's the final, thermodynamic twist. The one that makes this genuinely insane. All that salt? It's reflecting sunlight. A lot of it. Earth's energy budget is now deeply in the red. We're losing more heat than we gain. The planet enters a runaway cooling feedback loop. Temperatures fall far enough, and the atmosphere itself starts to condense. Nitrogen rains out as a bitter liquid. The air pressure drops to a fraction of what it is now. The sky turns a deep, starless black. You are left on a silent, salt-bleached rock, orbiting a sun it can no longer feel. A museum of a biosphere, encased in the very mineral it once used to season its food. The ultimate preservative. It preserved everything into a perfect, lifeless statue of itself. If you enjoyed this, like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.